Hello and welcome to the ZGuy programming channel, Python edition. Today's topic, conditional statements. In this tutorial, we are going to discuss the topic of program control using condition or decision statements, otherwise known as the if-else construct. If statements are a form of branching in the program. The program is going to make an evaluation, and based on the results, will decide if it should execute a block of commands or not. Here is the simplest form of the if statement. We're going to ask the user for a number from 1 to 10 and store that in a variable called value string. Then we're going to convert that value string into an integer called value so that we can do string and integer comparisons in our example today. So first off, we start with the keyword if. Then we have to put together our comparison, our evaluation for the if statement. So we're going to compare value string and this string here, the number inside of quotes, to see if they're equal. Now notice we use two equal signs here because one equal sign would be telling the computer we're trying to make an assignment statement, and we don't want to do that. We're doing a comparison, so we use the two equals. In this example here, we're comparing value string equal to 5. If that is true, we print you have entered 5. Now at the end of the if statement, you have to put this delimiter here, this colon. Our next example is if value string not equal 5. A less than and greater than symbol put together means not equal. And then we print you did not enter 5. Notice we took the print statement from the second line and brought it up to the first line. Just another way of formatting your code that's totally acceptable. The not equals conditional also can be shown as a exclamation point followed by an equal sign. Both of these are the same. They're both saying not equal. If value string not equal 5, print. Okay, and you've also noticed we've used single quotes here and double quotes here. Either one. I would be consistent in your code, but I just wanted to show an example here that Python allows you to use either single or double quotes when putting a value in between those quotes and indicating it's a string that you're doing a comparison with. So let's save this as if.py and run this program. We'll enter a 6 and it says you did not enter a 5. We'll run it again and enter a 5 and it says you entered 5. So if you look at our code, if it equals 5, it prints you entered 5. If the value is not 5, it says you did not enter 5. And then we checked it again for not equal to 5. So we got did not twice because we asked twice, and we entered 5 one time because that's all we compared it to was one time this was true, and it printed you entered 5, but these two evaluated to false, so we did not print anything for those two if statements. Here we show 4 more comparators. The first is greater than, is the value greater than 10. Here is less than, is the value less than 1. This one is less than or equal to, so if you had the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, that would be true, and you would execute the print statement. This one says, is the value greater than or equal to 8? So if they entered 8, 9, or 10, this would evaluate as a true statement and print number is greater than or equal to 8. This next if statement is just slightly more complex because in this case we're evaluating two conditions on the same if statement. The first condition is value less than 1. The second condition is value greater than 10. Now we've got this new word or in here. Okay, we're validating the user's entry as we had shown in our less than and greater than example earlier. And we're saying if they entered a number less than 1 or greater than 10, we want to print invalid entry. The OR statement means one side of the OR the other has to be true. One side has to be true in order for this if statement to evaluate to a true condition and execute the print invalid entry. If they are both false, it will not print this. If they are both true, it will. Or if one or the other is true, it will execute print invalid entry. This next piece of code takes things just a little bit further by introducing the AND operator. And in this case, we're saying, is value greater than 2 and value less than 5? We're going to evaluate, just like in math class, you used parentheses to determine order of precedence or the order in which the computer is going to evaluate things. We put these two in parentheses. So we want what's inside this parentheses to evaluate to a true or false condition. So if you entered a 3 or a 4, this would be true. 3 is greater than 2 and 3 is less than 5. So this condition would be true. If the user entered a 6, is value greater than 2? Yes. Is value less than 5? No. With an AND, both sides must evaluate to true for this total condition here to be true. And 6 fails this test, so it becomes false. And this, within this parentheses, evaluates to a false condition. This OR says, I want everything in this parenthesis to be true, to evaluate to true, or this value equals 7 to true. One side or the other must evaluate to true in order for this print statement to execute. Now we're going to talk about the other half of the if statement. We so far have been looking at what happens if the if statement is true. If it's true, we want to do something. If it's not true, we haven't done anything yet, right? We've just moved to the next section of our code and continued on. Now we're going to talk about the else statement. So if, and here we're validating the user's input. If its value is less than 1 or the value is greater than 10, print invalid entry and print number must be from 1 to 10. Else, okay, so if this evaluates to false, then we drop down to the else condition and we say print valid entry. We perform a calculation on the number the user entered and we print a string out for the user. And if you're not familiar with this formatting here, I suggest you go back and watch the string formatting video and it will explain how this print statement functions. So let's go ahead and run this version of the program and see what happens. So if we enter the number 6, it says valid entry. Did you know 6 times 5 is 30? If we go back to our code, we say if value is less than 1. Well, that's not true. That's false because we entered a 6. Or value greater than 10. Well, that's false as well because we entered a 6. So this condition is false or false. Okay? So this if is not true. It only evaluates to true if one or the other is true. In this case, both are false. So it goes down to the else statement and prints and calculates and prints again. The last version of the if statement that we're going to discuss is the version that includes this new keyword called else if. Okay, the keyword is actually spelled E-L-I-F, but it means else if. So the way you would read this code is it says if value equals 1, if that's true, print you entered 1. and then the program's done. It's going to drop down to this next statement. For instance, we could say print end. Okay. It doesn't need to evaluate any other of these conditions because the user entered a 1, and because of the structure of the if and the else if, the program knows that there's no need to evaluate any more of these once we've hit a true condition. So if a user entered 3, it would check this value against 1. It'd say no, they entered a 3, that's not true. Else, if the value is a 2, no, once again it fails that test, so it drops down to this else if value equals 3, and then that's true, so it prints you entered 3, and then it will drop all the way down to the bottom to the next line that is all the way to the left edge with no indentations and print end. Okay, so now you can run that program and test that and see how that works. You now have the if else, the if else if commands at your disposal now, and your programs can now grow in their complexity, and you can evaluate inputs from the user or inputs from various other devices in your system. As you become more experienced, you'll read and write files, and the if is a very, very important part of the programming language that allows you to transfer control from one part of a program to another depending on the evaluation of the if statement. I hope this has been helpful to you, and the next video that we're going to do is going to discuss looping, a way to process a block of code iteratively and repetitively for until another condition is met, and then it will stop doing that looping. So I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.